The desert was quiet. Dust danced in the wind as Ray walked alone, his boots crunching on broken stones. He was a scavenger man who searched old places for tech, scrap, or anything useful. But today, he wasn't looking for metal. He was following. A signal, a weak distress beacon, blinked on his scanner. It came from the edge of the canyon, where the sand swallowed ships whole and only the bravest ever walked. Ray climbed down slowly. The beacon grew louder. Then he saw it. An old alien research pod half buried in the sand. Its outer hull was cracked, glass panels broken, vines growing inside. He pushed open the door, careful not to trigger any traps. The inside was cold and dark. Then he heard it. A soft gasp. Ray turned fast, hand on his laser pistol. But what he saw made him freeze. A girl, small, thin, not human. She had silver blue skin glowing faintly in the darkness. Her hair was soft white, hanging over her shoulders, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees. But what struck Ray the most were her eyes, wide, full of fear, and her hands. They were pressed hard against her ears. Ray stepped closer, slow and gentle. "It's okay," he said. "I won't hurt you." She didn't move. She didn't speak. She just kept covering her ears, rocking slightly, as if trying to block out a sound Ray couldn't hear. There was no sound in the pod now. No alarms, no machines. Just silence. Ray knelt down and took off his helmet. "I'm Ray," he said, softly. Still nothing. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. He pulled out a protein bar and placed it on the ground. She stared at it like it might explode then. Slowly, carefully, she reached out and took it. She ate like she hadn't eaten in weeks. Ray didn't ask questions. Kay waited. When she finished, he offered water. She drank quickly, still watching him like a cornered animal. Then she looked at his mouth as he spoke. He repeated his name, Ray. No reply. He sighed and pointed to her. "You?" Her lips didn't move, but her eyes blinked once. He smiled gently. "Okay, you don't have to say anything." He stood up and looked around the pod. Tea was full of destroyed equipment, most of it alien, some of it human-made. A war, an experiment. He couldn't tell, but he knew one thing. This girl had been left behind, abandoned. He turned to her again. "I'll call you Echo." She flinched at the word. "Too loud?" he asked, realizing his voice had echoed inside the pod. He lowered. "It," whispered Echo. She blinked slowly. Then she nodded. It wasn't a smile, but it wasn't fear either. Ray reached out his hand. She stared at it for a long time. Then, trembling, she placed her hand in his. They walked back to Ray's. Sheltora's small dome hidden in the canyon rocks. It was basic, but safe. Clean water, solar power, and quiet. Echo followed without speaking. Her eyes studied everything. But she stayed close to Ray. Inside, he gave her a blanket. She curled up in the corner, still keeping her hands near her ears. Ray turned on the heater and began cooking something warm. Music played softly from his old music box, just a slow instrumental melody from Earth. Ray didn't even notice at first, but Echo did. The moment the first note played, she screamed. A sharp, painful scream. She threw herself against the wall, hands over her ears, shaking like she was being electrocuted. Ray turned the music off instantly and rushed to her. "It's okay. It's off. It's off." She gasped for air, shaking violently. Ray wrapped the blanket tighter around her. "No music," he said. "No sound, I promise." She didn't open her eyes. She just whispered one word, voice cracking like broken glass. "Stop." Then silence returned. That night, Ray couldn't sleep. He watched her from across the room. She didn't close her eyes. She sat against the wall, wrapped in the blanket, watching the shadows. She wasn't just scared of noise. She was broken. By it, what had they done to her? What kind of place used sound to torture someone? Ray didn't know. But he made a promise to himself that night. He would help her, even if she never spoke. Again, even if she never smiled, she was more than what someone had turned her into. And maybe, just maybe, music could be more than pain. Maybe, someday, it could be her freedom. Ray tried everything to make Echo feel safe. He spoke softly, moved slowly, and never turned on music again. He learned how to live in silence, not because he liked it, but because she needed it. Echo didn't speak. But she listened. She watched him cook, fix wires, and clean equipment. She followed him like a quiet shadow. Never far, but never too close. Her silver-blue skin glowed faintly in the dark, and her eyes always searched the air like she expected. Sound to strike her again. Ray built a small garden outside the shelter. Alien plants, tough and wiry, but they still grew. Echo liked them. She sat near them, never touching, just watching as the leaves moved in the wind. The only sound she seemed okay with was nature. Ray noticed something strange. She didn't fear all sound. The wind didn't scare her. The fire didn't scare her even. Ray's low voice, as if he spoke slowly, seemed to calm her. But certain sounds, clicking, buzzing, high-pitched tones, those made her freeze. One afternoon, Ray dropped a small metal part. It bounced on the floor with a ting. Echo shrieked and fell to the ground, hands over her ears, shaking. Ray ran to her, feeling helpless again. "It's okay," he whispered. "It's just a part. It's not going to hurt you." But Echo's eyes were wide with terror. She kept mumbling something under her breath. He couldn't understand, but she was remembering something. That night, Ray brought out a small holographic translator cube. It was an old Earth model, but still worked with most galactic languages. He pointed to himself, Ray, then to her. "You?" She looked away. He tapped the cube and said, "Name?" The cube repeated the word in a dozen alien languages. Echo blinked. Then she reached out and tapped the cube. No words, just a trembling finger. Ray smiled. "That's okay. We'll try again tomorrow." He pressed a new word. Food. Echo pointed to the stew bubbling in the pot. "Good," Ray said. "You're learning." Over the next few days, he used the cube, more simple words. Light, cold. "Friend." Ray said friend and pointed to himself. Echo didn't answer, but she didn't walk away either. One morning, as the sun lit the canyon gold, Ray worked outside. Fixing a solar panel, Echo sat nearby, watching birds fly over the cliffs. She looked peaceful. Ray hummed quietly, not realizing it. A small tune, just a habit. But then he stopped. Because she was watching him, her head tilted, her eyes focused, and then something unexpected happened. Her lips moved, just slightly. A sound came, out barely more than a breath. A note, soft, broken. But it was music. Ray didn't move. He didn't say a word. He just listened. Echo realized what she'd done. Her face twisted in fear. She stood up and backed away. Heart racing. "I'm sorry." Ray said gently, "It's okay. That was beautiful." She didn't believe him. She ran inside the shelter and hid under the table. Later that night, Ray sat beside her in silence. The music box stayed shut. "I think someone used music to hurt you," he said softly. "But it's not your fault." She stared into the dark. Ray opened a small metal case and pulled out a string instrument, a Naira harp, made from earthwood and alien crystal. It had survived 3 planets with him. He didn't play it. He just held it. "Do you know this?" Echo reached out and touched the string. It didn't sing, just hummed softly. She didn't flinch. Ray smiled. It's not a weapon. She slowly pulled her hand back, then whispered something. Ray leaned in. What? She whispered again. They sang. To control us. Ray's heart froze. Who? He asked. Her voice shook. The black ships. The ones with the voice. They used sound to take our minds. Mind-control. Ray had heard rumors of alien empires that used sound frequencies to bend weaker species to their will. But it wasn't supposed to be real. Echo looked at him. It hurts. Inside, she tapped her head. Ray understood. Not just fear, trauma, deep inside her brain. Her people were attacked with sound. Broken with music. Echo, Ray said slowly. What if we found music that didn't hurt? She looked unsure. Ray opened a file on his old console. He tapped one song, something soft. No words. Just a gentle piano melody. One his sister used. To love back on Earth. He didn't press play yet. He looked at her. Will you trust me? She nodded. Barely, he tapped it. The song played. Echo covered her ears, but not tightly. Not in fear. Her eyes filled with tears. Not of pain, but memory. That night, she didn't sleep under the table. She slept by the fire, wrapped in a blanket, listening to the faint echo of the piano. The girl who feared sound had taken the first step back toward it. It rained in the canyon for the first time in weeks. Ray stood under the shelter's roof, watching the drops fall over the dry red rocks. His solar panels hissed with moisture. Echo stood beside him, arms wrapped in her blanket, eyes wide. She had never seen rain before, or maybe she had forgotten what peace felt like. She reached out, letting a drop hit her palm. It made her smile. Just a little. Ray smiled too. This was progress. A week had passed since Echo listened to her first song without fear. Since then, she had allowed more only soft, slow music. No drums, no loud voices. Now, no sudden changes. Ray learned quickly. Every song was a test. Too sharp. She flinched. Too fast. She froze, but sometimes she hummed. Not loud. Just a tiny note beneath her breath. Like a bird learning to sing again after a storm. Ray began collecting peaceful music from his old drive. Classical love, ancient lullabies. He called it Echo's Playlist. And every night, before sleep, they played one track. One morning, Ray heard a knock. He wasn't expecting visitors. He opened the outer gate to see a small group of travelers, human and alien alike. Traders passing through the canyon. They had heard rumors of a scavenger with tech to fix broken comms. Ray welcomed them in. Echo stayed hidden at first, peeking from behind a curtain. Then she heard something music. One of the travelers had a handheld speaker, loud, modern earth pop, heavy bass, catchy hooks, fast rhythms. Echo dropped to her knees, hands over her ears. Ray rushed over. Turn that off. He shouted. The trader blinked. Sorry, didn't know it was a problem. She's sensitive, Ray said. She's not used to sound like that. They turned off the music, but the damage was done. Echo was shaking again. Her breaths were fast and shallow. Ray knelt beside her. It's over. They stopped. But Echo wasn't looking at him. She was staring at the fire, mouth trembling, eyes full of tears, and then she spoke. A single sentence, quiet, full of pain. That song, they used it to control us. Ray froze. He gently took her hand. Who used it? Echo looked at him, broken but brave. They came in ships, black and smooth. Their voices weren't real. They used sound to take our minds. We forgot our names. We marched. We obeyed. Her voice cracked. We were their choir. Ray sat in silence, unable to speak. Mind control through music. It sounded like science fiction, but Echo wasn't lying. She had lived it. They played it over and over, she whispered, until our voices weren't ours. Ray's voice was gentle. And you escaped, Echo nodded. I ran during the storm. I followed the silence. I wanted to forget the songs. Hush, Ray's heart ached. Echo, not all music is evil. She looked at him with wet eyes. Can it heal? He thought for a moment, then smiled softly. Yes, I think it can. Later that night, Ray gave her a small tablet with lyrics on the screen. He had chosen one song carefully and Old Earth Ballad. Simple words, slow melody. A story of someone lost. And someone who helped them find their voice again. Echo stared. At the screen, she touched the words with her finger. Then she whispered the first line. Not a full voice. Not even clear, but it was her voice. Ray sat still. Watching, she tried the second line. Stumbled. Tried again. Then she sang it quiet and broken, but whole. Her voice was soft, haunting, and real. Ray didn't speak. He just let her sing. The next day, Echo did something new. She walked outside, into the sun, and she sang the full chorus of the song Ray had given her. She sang to the canyon, to the sky, to the birds. And something strange happened. A piece of alien tech, half buried near the rock wall, began to glow. Ray stared. The old alien panel blinked to life. Echo stopped singing. Confused, Ray ran over, scanning the device. It was dead for years, he whispered. But your voice, it activated it? Echo looked scared again. Did I do something wrong? Ray shook his head. No, Echo. I think you just did something incredible. That night, they sat by the fire. Echo looked at Ray and asked, why? Does my voice wake machines? Ray had no answer, but deep in his heart, he felt a truth growing. She wasn't just a girl with a broken past. She was something more, a key, a signal, a song waiting to be heard by the stars. Asterisk. The stars above the canyon were quiet watchers. Ray sat by the fire, lost in thought. Echo slept nearby, wrapped in her blanket. One hand gently resting on her chest, like she was protecting something delicate inside her. He couldn't sleep. That machine, the alien device she had awakened with her voice. It still glowed. Quiet. Hum. Strange pulses. Ray had tried scanning it all day, but it refused to respond to him. Only to her. What kind of power did she carry in her voice? And how many people in the galaxy would want to use it? That question haunted him. The next morning, Echo hummed while washing her hands by the water barrel. The sound was soft and peaceful, barely louder than the wind. But Ray noticed something. Small plant near her, with silver petals and a closed bud, slowly opened as she sang. He blinked. Echo. Do that again? She looked confused. Ray pointed. That flower. It opened when you sang. She tilted her head, stepped closer, and sang the same tune again. The petals shifted slightly like they were listening. She stared at it, amazed. It heard me, Ray grinned. I think everything does. That afternoon, 2 local farmers came by the canyon. They had heard about Ray fixing scavenger gear and came to trade some seeds and parts. Echo stayed inside, but watched from the window. Ray gave the farmers some water and tools. As they left, one of them stopped. I heard a voice earlier, he said, from inside, singing. Ray nodded. She's shy. Don't scare her. The farmer laughed. Don't worry. Wasn't scary. It was beautiful. It made my old knees feel younger. He waved and walked off. Ray looked back toward the shelter. Heart pounding slightly. People were noticing. Her voice wasn't just music. It was change. Later that week, Ray brought out his old Naira harp, again the one Echo had once touched. This time, he handed it to her. Want to try it? Echo hesitated, then placed the harp in her lap. Her fingers brushed the strings, clumsy at first, but her ears were sharp. She adjusted her touch, softer, smoother. The notes that came out were haunting and deep, not happy, not sad, just real. She played for over 10 minutes without stopping. Ray didn't interrupt when she finally looked up. He smiled. You just played your first song. She looked down at her hands. I didn't know I could. Your voice woke. A machine, Ray said. Your music made a flower bloom. I think you were born for it. Echo stared into the fire. They tried to take it from me. Ray's voice was soft. Then we'll take it back. One morning, Echo asked something unexpected. Can I sing in front of others? Ray raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? She nodded. If I don't try, I'll never know if I'm strong. Ray smiled. All right, but small crowd first. They contacted a nearby settlement, quiet one, mostly refugees and farmers. Ray told them Echo was special, that she wanted to share something. That evening, a small group gathered by the old well. Children sat cross-legged. Old men leaned on their canes. A few alien families watched with curious eyes. Ray set up a tiny speaker to carry her voice farther, but no special effects. Just raw sound. Echo stood in front of them. Her hands trembled. Her breath caught in her throat. Ray gave her a nod from the side. She took a deep breath. Then she sang. The same melody she had practiced. The one with the old lyrics Ray had given her. She didn't sing loud, but her voice reached everyone. The children sat still. The old men wept softly. One alien mother placed a hand on her heart. Something strange happened. The settlement's ancient lampposts powered by forgotten alien tech flickered to life for the first time in decades. One by one, glowing softly, as if listening, as if grateful. Echo finished her song with a long, shaking breath. And then, silence. No one clapped. No one moved. Then a child whispered, "Do it again." And the crowd nodded. Echo smiled for the first time in front of strangers and sang again. That night, as they walked back to the canyon, Echo looked up at the sky. I felt something, she said. What? Ray asked, like the stars were singing back. Ray chuckled. Maybe they were. Echo's voice turned serious. Ray, if my voice can wake machines, help plants, touch hearts, then maybe it's not mine alone. Ray looked at her. Then what is it? She whispered, a gift. For everyone. The girl who once feared sound, now used it to light the dark, and that was only the beginning. It began with a whisper. Then the galaxy started listening. Echo's song from the quiet settlement had traveled farther than Ray expected. Someone had recorded it. Someone had shared it. Now people were asking questions. Who was the girl with the glowing voice? Why did dead alien tech light up when she sang? And why were so many people feeling something they hadn't felt in years? Ray tightened the security on his shelter. He added new scanners, motion traps, and sound barriers. Echo didn't ask. Why, she already knew. Are they coming? Kay, she asked one night. Ray nodded. Sooner or later, Echo looked at her hands. Will they try to use me again? Ray didn't answer. But the silence said enough. 2 days later, a ship came. Not from the government, not from scientists. Mercenaries, their armor was black and silver. Their logo was a jagged note wrapped around a chain. The Sonic Syndicate. They weren't polite. They didn't knock. They landed at the edge of the canyon and marched in with weapons drawn. Ray stepped outside, arms raised. This is private land, he said. The leader stepped forward, visor reflecting the sun. "We're not here for you. We're here for the girl." Ray's voice didn't shake. "She's not property. She's a miracle," the mercenary said. "And miracles are profitable." Behind him, the others powered up their sound, rifles deadly. Weapons designed to shatter bone with pure noise. Echo stood at the door. Heart pounding, the memories came flooding back. The black ships, the screams, the songs they forced her to sing. She almost collapsed, but Ray turned to her and said just 2 words. "Sing now." Echo didn't understand at first. "Sing." "What?" "Anything," Ray said. "Make it yours." The mercs laughed. "What's she gonna do? Hum us to death?" But Echo closed her eyes. She placed her hand over her heart and sang. Not a full melody, not a beautiful song, just a single. Rising notes, soft trembling. But full of soul, the canyon shifted. The wind answered. The sand trembled beneath their feet. And, behind her, the cliffside began to glow. The ancient tech hidden in the rock part of the same system that had once ruled this region woke up. A bright pulse shot upward. The mercs shouted. One screamed as his weapon exploded in his hands. Echo's voice rose higher. The very ground shook. Cracks formed beneath the mercenaries' boots. Their combs went dead, their visors shattered with static bursts. The commander screamed, "Fall back." But it was too late. One final note escaped Echo's lips. Like a bell tolling in the heart of a star, a wave of sound shot forward, not loud, not sharp, but pure. It hit the mercenaries like a wall of emotion. They collapse, not dead, but crying not from pain, from memory, from guilt. From guilt, from things buried deep inside. They dropped their weapons and fled, sobbing. Ray ran to Echo. She was shaking. He caught her in his arms. "Echo, are you okay?" She looked up at him. "I didn't hurt them. I just showed them what they forgot." Ray stared at her. "You didn't attack them," he whispered. "You awakened them." News spread fast. People started calling her the Star Singer. Videos of the event showed the glowing canyon wall, the way the sky shimmered as she sang. The mercs crawling away in tears. Some called it a miracle. Others called it a weapon. But one thing was clear. Echo was no longer just a survivor. She was a symbol. A force. Ray knew things would never be the same. "We have to leave," he told her. "More will come." Echo nodded. "Where?" "There's a place in the north, the Harmonic Ruins. They say it's where the sound tech began. Maybe we'll find answers there." Echo looked at the sky. "I don't want to hide anymore." "You won't," Ray said. "You'll lead." That night, before they packed to leave, Echo did one last thing. She stood in front of the canyon, and she sang again. This time, not in fear, not to fight, not even to protect. She sang in joy, and the stars, silent, distant, ancient, shined a little brighter, because the girl who once covered her ears now let her voice rise to the heavens, and the sky listened. The Harmonic Ruins were not marked on any map. Ray had only heard of them in stories, old tales told by tired traders over campfires. Stories about a city that sang to the stars, built by an ancient alien race that believed sound was the key to life. Most thought it was a myth, but after what Echo had done in the canyon, Ray believed in myths, and now they were walking straight into one. The journey was hard. 3 days across rough desert, 2 nights under cold stars. Echo sang to keep warm and to guide them. Sometimes birds followed. Sometimes old machines buried in the sand would light up for just a moment as she passed. Ray watched her grow, stronger each day. She didn't flinch at sounds. Anymore, she didn't hide. Her voice wasn't just healing hurt, was healing the world around her. On the fourth morning, they saw the ruins. A wide stone valley covered in spiraling towers and curved walls, nothing sharp, everything smooth and shaped like waves. The structures hummed with energy even after centuries of silence. Echo took a deep breath. "I remember this," she whispered. Ray looked at her. "You've been here before?" She nodded. In dreams, inside the ruins, they found old symbols on the walls. Echo could read them. She didn't know how, but her voice seemed to understand. She sang one word: awaken. The floor beneath them lit up, stone shifted, a staircase unfolded. A door long sealed, opened with a deep chime. Ray followed her down the steps. The room below glowed with soft blue light. In the center stood a tall stone pillar covered in carvings, and beside it stood a woman. Not human, tall, silver skin. Long dark robes that shimmered with light. She wasn't breathing, she wasn't blinking. She was a projection. Message left behind. The woman spoke. "You who carry the chosen note, welcome." Ray stepped back. Echo stepped forward. "Who are you?" she asked. The projection replied, "I am the voice keeper. My people are gone, but our memory lives in you." Ray stared. "In her, yes," said the voice keeper. "Her voice is not just music. It is a frequency encoded with memory, power, and life. Passed down through blood, hidden, waiting to rise again." Echo looked down at her hands. "I'm just a girl. You are more," said the projection. "You are a key." The pillar in the center of the room began to vibrate. A low tone filled the chamber. The voice keeper continued. "If you choose, you can reawaken the choir network, a system of energy, healing, and communication across the stars." But Ray knew there would be a but. It will draw those who once used it for control. They will come again. They will try to take your voice. Echo's face was calm. "I won't let them," she said. Ray stepped forward. "She's not alone." That night, Echo stood outside the ruins, looking up at the moon. "Ray," she said, "do you think my people are still out there?" Ray sat beside her. "I don't know, but if they are, they might hear you." Echo placed her hand on her chest. "I feel them. In here, like 1,000 voices just waiting to sing." Ray smiled, "Then sing." She sang a melody not written in any human file, not in any alien database. A melody that hadn't been heard in 1,000 years. The towers of the harmonic ruins lit up one by one. A signal pulsed upward, quiet but strong. It spread across the sky, across satellites, across space. A signal of life, of music, of return. On a distant moon, a young alien girl heard the hum in her sleep and began to cry without knowing why. In a forgotten prison ship, drifting in the dark, a prisoner hummed a tune he hadn't remembered since childhood. Across the stars, hearts stirred beef because the note had been found, and the song-bearer had returned. The stars were not quiet anymore. They pulsed with a message. A song, a memory, and it all began with one girl. The girl who once covered her ears. Now, she stood tall beneath the sky, her voice rising like sunlight through the dark. Echo had become more than a name. She was a signal, a symbol, a sound the galaxy could not ignore. Within days of sending out the note from the harmonic ruins, responses began to arrive. First came the song's strange melodies sent from distant colonies. Ancient languages sung by alien voices. Many didn't know what they were singing. Some said it came to them in dreams, but they were singing the same melody, Echo's melody. Then came the ships from peaceful planets, from ruined homes, from distant stations that hadn't contacted Earth. In decades, they didn't come to fight. They came to listen. To her, Ray stood beside Echo as they prepared the central tower of the ruins for the gathering. He watched her rehearse, not because she needed it, but because the galaxy was watching now. She wore a robe given to her by the Voice Keeper's hologram, woven with threads that responded to her heartbeat. It shimmered as she breathed. "You nervous?" Ray asked. Echo smiled. "Eh? Little, you're about to sing in front of ambassadors, elders, soldiers, scientists, from dozens of worlds." She looked at him. "I'm not singing for them." Ray tilted his head. "Then who?" She looked up. "For the ones who never got the chance. My people, my family. All the voices that were stolen." Ray nodded. "I'm proud of you," he said. Echo reached for his hand. "You gave me the first quiet place. Now I'll give them a song." The grand gathering began at sunset. A floating platform rose above the ruins. Ships hovered in silence. Thousands gathered across the cliffs, watching through screens, translators, and telescopes. Echo stood in the center. One light followed her, no backup singers, no instruments. Just her. She looked at the stars, then closed her eyes and began to sing. Her voice was not loud, but it reached everywhere. Because it was pure, no fear, no pain, only truth. She sang of a world that once thrived in harmony, where voices were gifts, not weapons. She sang of betrayal of love, dark ships that stole songs and used them like chains. She sang of silence, of fear, of a child who forgot how to smile. And then she sang of Ray, of kindness, of the man who gave her a name and never asked for anything. In return, her voice cracked, but she did not stop. She sang of hope, of healing, of rising, of remembering. And as the final note echoed into the night sky, something happened that no one expected. The stars responded, one by one. Lights in the sky shimmered, pulsed, moved, constellations shifted, and from beyond the rim of known space, a signal returned. Old, faint, but real. Alien ships unlike anything on recoordinate. Known space. They didn't come with weapons. They came with songs, and one voice, in a broken accent, came through all comes. Daughter of harmony, we heard you. Ray's eyes filled with tears. Echo didn't move. She just whispered, "They're alive." What followed in the next days was history. Peace talks between enemy planets, shared songs between species that had never spoken. Old tech reactivated through music frequencies. Entire planets healed with tones Echo helped design. She became more than the star singer. She became the first chord of the galactic choir. Not because she was powerful, but because she remembered. Because she chose to sing a year later on the anniversary of the first performance. Echo returned to the canyon where Ray first found her. It was quiet. She smiled. She sat on the rock by the fire pit and closed her eyes. No guards. No crowds. Just wind. Ray sat beside her. She looked at him and asked, "Do you remember the first song you played for me?" He laughed. "The one that made you scream." She grinned. "Yes." "Want to hear it again?" She nodded. Ray turned on the old music box, but this time, Echo sang along, loud, free, laughing because the girl who once covered her ears, now screamed every lyricon. The whole galaxy sang with her.